First, it's far worse and more serious than anyone recognizes. Secondly, we have the means to reverse the situation in hand with the technologies that exist, but we're not using them. And third, the window of opportunity to do so is very rapidly vanishing. So that's where we have to begin. Now, I want to back some of this. In Jamaica 30 years ago, we started seeing our corals turn white and dying. And Jamaica is where coral reef science was developed. We had never seen this before. And it was hotter than normal, but so little hotter, it seemed impossible to believe the temperature could be the cause. I then went and analyzed all of the NOAA satellite sea surface temperature data. And this was, back in the late 80s, and we were able to find that we could predict when and where bleaching would happen accurately from satellite data alone, and the temperature at which it would happen. And we warned the Australians nearly 30 years ago what would happen to the Great Barrier Reef when the temperatures reached the levels that they have this year and last year. We knew all of that nearly 30 years ago, but governments did not want to act. I mean, what was astonishing to us is that we were always just below the upper limit at which corals could live, and we'd never seen it be pushed above that until 1987 when it happened worldwide, and it's happened year after year since then, worse and worse. So the fact is we have lost most of the corals in the world already. We've lost most of our fisheries, we've lost most of our shore protection, we've lost most of our ecotourism in the small island states. Now, the Commonwealth, nearly 2/3 of 60% of the members, more than that, are small island states. In fact, most of the small island states of the world belong to the Commonwealth. Okay? It's only a small proportion of the total population, but even the countries that aren't small island states also have reefs for the most part. So this is something that affects them very profoundly as well. So anyway, we have very little time left to save reefs. We've developed the methods for growing them back using low voltage electricity for growing back beaches that are eroded, but they're not being used. We know how to protect the shoreline and grow reefs back and fishes, but we're not using it. Now, the oceans are clearly dying, but the solution is not in the ocean. The solution is on land. The whole discussion of the carbon cycle has been grossly confused between the atmosphere, the ocean, and the land, because people are talking about phenomena on different timescales. The key thing is this: it takes 1,600 years for the ocean to turn over. Until it's done that, we're not going to feel the effect of warming. So the CO2 increase that has already happened, we're not going to feel it for a couple thousand years. We haven't felt it yet. Okay, now, in Jamaica, we have the fossil sea level perfectly preserved from the last time temperatures are 1 degree or 2 degrees C warmer than they are now. Sea level is 8 meters higher, but perfectly preserved all around Jamaica. So we know exactly how high it was. At that time, here in London, there were crocodiles and hippopotamuses in London. The last time it was 1 or 2 degrees warmer than it is now. And at that time, CO2 was 280 ppm or 270 ppm, was pre-industrial or below. Okay, so we haven't yet felt the effect of that. When we do feel the effect of the present CO2 concentration of 400 parts per million, the sea level is going to be about 23 meters higher, and the temperature will be about 17 degrees C warmer. Okay, now the reason that IPCC doesn't tell you this is it's a continuous ascending curve. IPCC has cutoffs. They tell you what happened in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but in fact it's going to go on for thousands of years. And the fact is, no amount of emissions reductions can remove that excess CO2. We've got to increase the sinks. Again, we know how to do that. The solution is to put the carbon into the soil. And we have the methods for doing so. And the thing is this, is that if we use the current methods of carbon farming, I summarize them in my book on geotherapy, which is a book on soil fertility restoration. The gist of it is that the methods in hand, if we were to apply modern carbon farming, we could, and do it properly, we could in principle draw down the XS2 to pre-industrial levels within decades if we all act together and do it seriously. If we don't, we're in trouble. Now, I do want to say there was a saying by Buckminster Fuller that said, there are no passengers on lifeship planet Earth. We're all members of the crew. Except 95% of them refuse to row, and those who are rowing are all rowing in different directions. And the boat is going to sink before it reaches land if we're not smart enough to learn to row together.